I didn't know whether to call this live session a uh, call it what I did. Why are you falling for Trump's populist tripe with credit cards? Or I was thinking about calling it, "Am I the only one that actually knows how to use a credit card?" If you think the 10% force down of credit card rates that dear leader porn star Humper has just demanded, if you think that's a solution to anything, I think you're seriously misguided and totally off base. Okay. Um, the interest rates were capped when we created the Consumer Protection Unit under Warren's bill. Okay. You've got a cap of 36%. We don't have 100% credit cards anymore. Okay. I think the highest card I ever saw, I think it was some like a report by NerdWallet or something like that. They had a card that was basically 136% before penalties and fees. Okay. Now, what should a credit card be used for? As a money management tool, not as a permanent loan. Okay. And I do understand before anybody, yells at me, because boy, some people have been online. Not the nice people that are usually here. I'm getting some weird right wing comments on YouTube, and had to block a guy here on Substack who went into a vitriolic meltdown. Wants to see ICE kill everybody, so I just blocked him permanently. But I do realize many, many people are struggling in America, and they're struggling to cover the basic necessities of life: food, rent, medicine. And far too often, people are using unsecured debt, a credit card, uh, to make ends meet. But all that does is dig the hole deeper for them. I've seen this with my own family. I've had to bail out a sibling a couple of times over this. Okay. A credit card is not a permanent loan. Okay. I want to make that abundantly clear. If you've been running a credit card balance for years and years and years, paying whatever your rate is, 21.75, all the way up to 36%. A cheap card today is maybe 18, 19. I mean, my wife and I have a really excellent credit rating and a really excellent credit card. And our interest rate, our published interest rate, and I'll get into published versus effective here in a second, but our published rate, I think, is like 18.75 or something like that. It's not a cheap card, but we know how to use it, so it doesn't cost us anything. Hell, even after the annual fee, we're negative after points. Credit card is a monthly money management tool. So you don't have to carry, why do we create currency? Public checks. Well, currency is kind of efficient, isn't it? You don't have to bring, like ancient times, you had to bring, 3 cows, 2 sheep, a bundle of grain, and your firstborn daughter to the transaction. Now we can just go out to dinner or go to the hardware store, put it on the credit card, and pay it off at the end of the month. Okay. That's what a credit card is actually designed for. It is not a system set up for long-term personal loans. Besides the fact, a personal loan out of a bank would actually be cheaper in the interest rates in a lot of circumstances. Um, the 10%, I'll tell you what I think the 10% thing coming out of the Oval Office with Dear Leader is. It's just another distraction. The banks are never going to do 10%. If the banks are forced by legislation, because Trump can't order it, He thinks he can. He thinks he's the king of the United States and Venezuela and Greenland now, and soon to be king of Cuba, Colombia, Mexico, and Canada. Um, he thinks he can just put out a dictum and all credit cards are readjusted to 10%. That is never happening. Okay. That is pure fantasy bullshit. Okay. The banks aren't doing it on their own. Why? Because if the banks did it, they'd be destroying their own fucking business. Yeah. Yeah. I hate to tell you that in this one circumstance, both Jamie Dimon and Fox Business News are majoritively correct. Okay. You take credit cards down from maximum of 36% to a fixed 10%, 50 to 75% of all credit cards get canceled the next day. It will be waylay against middle classes families who are all set up and have a budget, have the ability to pay off their credit card at the end of the month. They have a cycle that just stops, and now you're running to the utility to go pay your utility office to go pay your bill because you can't do it online anymore because you don't have a credit card. If you go to 10%, we go straight into a retail recession that month. Layoffs in retails. Remember, retail accounts for about 26% of all jobs in America. It's one of the biggest single sector of jobs we have. Okay. You cut out purchasing power of the average American and you slow down retail, we will have massive, massive retail layoffs. Once people cannot manage their money, they're going to have to switch back to saving up, which is going to cause, the next few quarters at the retail stores to see really bad quarters. They have a couple of bad quarters in a row. Here come the layoffs, and they won't be pretty. Okay. Oh, you won't. Once you have the credit card rate, shoved down the economy's throat. Not only do half the people lose their credit cards, but buy now, pay later, which is just an arbitrage off of other credit schemes that they're doing. Um, all these low cost, no cost, buy now, pay laters, they all disappear because they can't arbitrage the risk against their higher income operations. So no credit card, no buy now, pay later. Um, Retail layoffs for what? Because Donald Trump thinks he found the credit card utopia door into Narnia. Oh, look, I found Valhalla. 10% credit cards. Does the interest rate on a credit card have anything to do with the unaffordability problem? It's an amplifier to it. It's not a core fundamental. It's not a core variable. The credit card interest rate has nothing to do why eggs are so expensive or why chuck roast is up, what, 20%? Hamburger has never been more expensive. Ground beef has never been more expensive. It's never cost more. Not the price, the cost. Because, you live in one state and you're making, $28 an hour versus living down in the Southeast in Mississippi making $18 an hour. The price and the cost become two different things. It takes a lot less effort, hours to gain the time needed and the income needed to pay for a particular product. Okay. So my question is today, and if anybody has an explanation, please, put it in the comments. And you're open to disagree with me. Just don't be a vitriolic asshole when you do so. Um, I don't see this as just a pat on the head to the American consumer going, "Oh, I'm looking out for the little guy." I'm sorry, a 10% credit card is gonna pay my healthcare premium that just tripled? Is that the bullshit you're selling me? Cars have never been more expensive? That's gonna make cars cheaper? No. It's not gonna make eggs cheaper, it's not gonna make ground beef cheaper. And people who credit cards, they don't understand. Yes, there is a published rate, and then there's an effective rate, okay? If you pay off your bills every month, okay, you can pay off your credit card balance every month. Like, all my bills go on my credit card, and then I just pay off the credit card. If you pay off your credit card balance at the end of the month, your effective rate, your published rate is whatever it is, 18, 19, 22, 30, 36, whatever it is. Your effective rate is 0, or it's a fraction of 1% after the annual fee. You only are hit up by high interest rates when you carry a balance endlessly. And a credit card was never designed to carry a balance endlessly. The same way that a Christmas Club account was never designed as a retirement system. But guess what we did? We took the Christmas Club account law and we made it the 401k. We did that. What is my wife and I's effective rate on our main credit card? We only have one. We don't have a slew of them. We have one personal one. I have one for my consulting firm in case I have to get parts or buy a license or something for my clients, and I bill it through, on the invoice. But we have one personal credit card. The effective rate on our credit card is about a negative 1.5. Yes. Minus 1.5 percentage. That's our effective rate after points. Why? Oh, because my wife and I are total point whores. We are the biggest point whores in the universe, and we openly admit that. That's why I put everything on the credit card and pay it off later, because we build points and everything. We get double points for dining out. We dine out all the time. That's our big thing. We've been doing that since we met. As teenagers, we like going out to dinner. Yeah. If you if you think a 10% credit card interest is going to rescue the middle class, you are ooh, off base, dangerously misinformed. Now, a 10% rate is too low, just like 120% was way, way, way stupidly too high. There's a sweet spot somewhere in the middle. And I don't think the Consumer Protection Unit Bureau, whatever we call it, I don't think they just necessarily did a bad job setting it where it is. Because what we're getting into here is a problem we've seen before. Telling people to spend money they do not have. Now, again, I'm making the codicil. I brought that up right up front. I know some people are using it for sustenance living, rent, food, housing. I understand that. But that's not where a lot of your credit card insolvency comes from. It's caused by simple overspending. And the UMC, not the poor people, not the poors, the UMC is the one who tends to default more. The upper middle class. Member of the UMC. Pops here. So we have a generation that's been taught that because you have a home mortgage deduction, you should buy more house than you can afford. You should book a mortgage payment per month that basically paints you into a corner financially, leaving you no room for emergencies. Okay. We did the same thing with credit cards. Like the real problem with credit cards is we taught people to use credit cards wrong. We told them it was a never ending loan. It's not. It never should be. And this is nothing new. Like when I worked as a civilian in the police department, we had a sergeant that kept refinancing his house because he kept running up his credit card bills. He lived lavishly. He lived more lavishly than some of the captains did, even though the captains made a hell of a lot more money than he did. But every time he racked up another 50K on the credit card, he just refinance his house or refinance his rental, take the money out, and pay off his credit cards. That's just ignorant. And a lot of us back then were watching him do it and going, "Man, you're pretty ignorant when it comes to finances." The nest egg of your home is where most people build most of their wealth. And he was just draining it so he could spend money on his credit card. I've had family members get in trouble with credit cards. My wife and I were younger. Yeah, we spent too much. That's where we learned our lesson. Took us 2 years and 9 months to pay off a credit card, calculated what it really cost us. Then we both realized how fucked up that was and how bad we made a mistake. So we never did it again. Like there's better ways to get temporary financing. If you're a homeowner, your HELOC is probably your best bet, not long-term credit card payments. Because at least with a HELOC interest, the home equity line of credit, you can write off that interest off your taxes if you itemize. That's how I buy cars. I just take it out of the HELOC, pay the HELOC back quickly, and then whatever small amounts of interest I gain, um, I write that off my taxes. Last couple of cars, I didn't even do that. I just wrote a cashier's check for it. Went and got a cashier's check for it. Um, the rent is too damn high. I know, I agree. Housing prices are too damn high. Even though they're falling a lot around here, they're too damn high. What the fuck does that have to do with a credit card interest rate? Credit cards at 10% are going to solve home affordability? No, they're not. No, they're not. This is literally populist bullshit. How did Trump come to power? By spewing populist bullshit to the red hat rubes. My question this morning or today is, why is everybody that's left leaning on social medias I follow? Why are they all going, "Oh, wow, yeah, Trump's right. We need a 10% interest rate." What fucking problem does that solve? We solved the super high interest rate problem through the Consumer Protection Bureau. What utopia are you trying to build at 10%? Like I really wish I had like a bigger audience where I could do like a statistically significant survey because you don't have like 10 or 12,000 people answering a survey. Um, your survey is basically a coin flip. But I would like to ask the question to people: are you willing to not have a credit card going forward for the rest of your life? Your credit score is below 700 at 10%. You're not having a credit card. Hell, 740, you may not have a credit card. Your current debt to income ratio is a little too high. They're going to revoke your credit card. So that's a question on the table. Are you willing to give up your credit card to meet the populist fantasy being presented? Because the biggest financial burden in America is healthcare bills, medical bills. We're not gonna do anything about that, but make it 1,000 times worse. When your medical insurance premiums triple, your deductible goes up 4x. I saw this on a post on YouTube. People are taking pictures of their changes, before and after. They got to get a notice. So this is what your plan was. This is what your plan is now. Yeah, some people are seeing 4x deductible increases. A 10% credit card interest rate fixes a tripling of your premiums and a quadrupling of your deductibles in your healthcare insurance program. How exactly? Because all they're trying to do with this 10% interest rate is to convince you it's safe to go into debt further. It's safe for you to go shopping with money you really don't have. Now, I think everybody should have a credit card. It took my oldest son, so long to get his, and I'm like, "You gotta start building up a credit history, okay? 'Cause you wanna buy a car someday, wanna, buy a condo or a house someday, you need to build that up." But my wife and I have taught our kids over and over and over and over and over the proper use of a credit card and how not to carry long-term balances on your card, because the card, even at, a low rate today, 18%, that's kind of on the lower side for a mainstream card. That's not a cheap way to do financing. And my fear is, if we're gonna dupe people with a 10% interest rate, the Narnia land of interest rates, and we're gonna convince people that this is the answer, and they go out and they spend more money, um, does just the credit card, what is it now? The credit card debt read last month was 1.6 trillion. Americans are 1.6 trillion in arrears on their credit card. Is it the credit card's fault? Now, in general, let me warn you, the reason why Trump is attacking Jerome Powell at the Federal Reserve and making up more fake criminal charges against people, um, Trump wants all interest rates artificially forced down. Why? Because that's exactly what his buddy Erdogan did in Turkey. Turkey filed their equivalent to Jerome Powell, put in one of Erdogan's stooges, and then Turkey immediately suffered from hyperinflation. Yeah, the inflation rate has sucked at times over the past couple of decades. Bad. Yeah, I know. But America hasn't seen hyperinflation like I'm talking about in Turkey. We're talking over 80% in Turkey in 1 year. Okay. If he can artificially, well, first, if he can manipulate the Fed, coerce the Fed, which is supposed to be an independent agency, um, basing their decisions on data, not the whims and grievance of a wannabe king. But say he does successfully coerce the interest rates down. Okay. We had low interest rates. I did this in my essay. The American Dream was assassinated in 1978. We had cheap mortgage rates, cheapest mortgage rates ever in the 2000s to the mortgage crash. Did that make homes cheaper? No, it was the largest increase in pricing year over year during that period. So did lower interest rates mean anything to the middle class shopper for real estate? No. You paid less of an interest rate on an artificially increased housing price. You didn't save anything in the end. Nothing. In fact, for most people, especially people in high cost districts, Miami-Dade, Austin, Texas, New York City, most of California, um, you paid more. Despite cheap interest rates on mortgages, ninja loans and all that crap, you paid more in most cases. So does the interest rate on a credit card really tell you the health of the economy and the affordability for the middle class worker? No, no. He's selling you a populist utopia. And what he wants to do is artificially make the economy look better because look, retail sales went up this quarter because I lowered the credit card. Oh yeah, and then the credit card debt balloons from 1.6 trillion to who fucking knows? 2 trillion, two and a quarter trillion, who knows? The problem isn't the credit card interest rate. The problem is Americans are in too much debt. America is in too much debt. And shifting interest rates down artificially doesn't address any fundamental in the problem space. Now, I want to tell people, I'm sorry if someone never sat down and told you how a credit card works and how it's properly used. I'm sorry you got duped once again, like low interest rates on ever increasing. When they gave us low interest rates in the early aughts, while housing was going up double digit a year. What did we save? What did we win as the middle class? Nothing. What are you going to win out of this 10% credit card scheme? This distraction with a populist meme? Nothing. And in the end, it's going to bite us in the ass just like cheap housing interest rates did. The problem isn't the interest rate per se. The problem, whether you're talking about government or a group of people or an individual, we have a financial literacy problem in this country, a huge one. And given the fact we just trained a generation and a half of kids not to read correctly, this problem's probably going to get worse. Because what we do with financing and using debt as a driver in the economy, uh, we've shown that time and time again, debt is a false prophet. And in and we're supposed to be living in this grand Christian country where the Christians make all the rules because we're all dirty little heathens. Well, you all seem to love the money changers. Jesus didn't. Oh, that's right. You guys don't actually read the Bible. I forgot. Um, so don't fall for that, please. If you're not sure how to use a credit card, learn. Ask somebody. Ask somebody who's not dead broke, putting more and more shit on their credit card every month for whatever reason, out of substance reasons, or just they're overspending wildly, or they're literally a shopping addict. I had a relative like that. Um, could go to the mall in one afternoon and spend $4,000, and then do it again later in the week. Okay. Before falling for this populist nonsense, please learn how credit cards work. Okay, next topic, and these next two will be very quick. I've been talking about being independent, voting independent, getting out to vote, period, no matter what your stripe is. Just don't vote for these fascist MAGA populist idiots. Okay. One thing we have to change, and if it doesn't change, you might as well just surrender to dear leader right now. You have to change the Democratic leadership. Can't say that any more plainer. They have to go. Chuck Schumer wrote another stern memo calling for ICE to be retrained. He was joined by Cory Booker, who's really turned into a stupid mouthpiece at times. Okay, we need to have them retrained. Well, they must have missed the 4 articles I've read this week that a lot of the agents went through almost no screening whatsoever, and many went through no training at all. They have literally been formed as a force to be a gang-minded militia with impunity and no legal requirements to do anything correctly. Okay. If you think your memo calling for training, okay, training, we need more training. Do you know how much money you already gave them? ICE has a bigger budget than the Israeli military. The last time I checked, the United States wasn't at war. Let me check the notes. No, we're not at war. So this little lackadaisical half-ass effort of Schumer, what are you going to do? Spend more money on ICE? They want a $600 billion increase to the Department of Defense. They want more money for ICE. And Chuck Schumer is just the fucking idiot to give it to him. Now, if you're a Democrat that's too scared to vote outside your party, I feel bad for you. Okay. But if you're a Democrat that's willing to put Schumer back in power or Jeffries back in power after the next election, you're just a fool. If you think he's doing a good job, just surrender now, because you already have. And I've already come to this conclusion. I did my NutBallCop political cartoon the other day, and I said it loudly. Disband ICE. Disband the entire unit. You can't take a shitstorm like this and turn it around. The only way you turn it around is disbanding it and reassigning the duties to someone who's competent enough to do it. Because yes, I've said this before. If you commit a felony and you're not a legal resident and you're not a protected refugee or something like that, get the fuck out. That does not mean what the fuck is going on in Portland and Minneapolis and Boston and everywhere else. None of that means anything like that. Okay. I told you the story about the American who went to a German prison for getting involved with a biker gang and doing a bunch of legal shit. The second he got released out of German prison, the German government said, go pick him up and throw his ass on a plane. He's not allowed to be here. We will put him back in prison for 10 years if he's still in the country tomorrow morning. Okay, because we're not the only ones that kick out felons. Norway does it. Ireland does it. Canada does it. Like none of the insurrectionists are allowed to go to Australia, Canada, Britain. A lot of them are banned. I'm sorry, not Britain, France. Because Nigel Farage and that crowd love those guys. If you're not willing to leave the Democratic Party and re-register as an independent, I think you're making a mistake. But it is your choice. Okay. I'm the one that actually believes in liberty and freedom and people making their own choices. I'm just saying I don't like your choice, and I think I can prove it to you it's not a good choice. But if that's what you want to do, that's what you're going to do. What I'm begging you to do is get rid of these clowns that call themselves leaders. Chuck Schumer could not lead a thirsty horse to water. Chuck Schumer couldn't lead Jeffrey Epstein and Dear Leader to a 13-year-old girl. Couldn't lead a hungry dog to a biscuit. That's what I'm saying. Get rid of Schumer. For heaven's sakes, wake up. Get rid of Schumer. Do anything but keep that clown doing what he's doing. Last thing, this one's gonna be a little shorter today. I got some work to do. I got a meeting coming up. Uh, network ops, so much fun. Um, I'm not trying to incite panic, nor am I trying to incite fear. I'm trying to provide a healthy warning about the next stage of America. Stay calm. Don't freak out. Take a breath. But the balloon will go up soon. The the problems, I think, at this point are pretty unrepairable. The statements that are being made by government officials and some of the elected idiots in Congress, um, it's not just beyond the pale. It's dangerous autocratic speak. Now, if Trump, because he threatened it again, well, hell, he campaigned on it. Um, if we dare look at the Epstein files or we dare say he's doing something wrong in Minneapolis, he is going to invoke the Insurrection Act. And that will be immediately followed within hours of declaring martial law and deploying the military. Okay. He's looking for an excuse. No. Ross Vaught, Steve Bannon, and Stephen Miller are looking for the excuse, and they're telling the dementia patient in between his napping and meetings that everybody's out to get him. Um, and people are out to get him because he's, in the Epstein files. Because if he was any regular citizen, he'd be already in prison. Okay, but let me tell you what's going to happen the second they invoke the Insurrection Act, and then they follow it up a couple hours later with martial law. Stock markets get shut down. Circuit breakers and market close will kick in, and markets will close early. Gold, silver, platinum, rubidium, nickel, all will skyrocket in the overnights, the overnight trading desks. I mean, skyrocket. You like silver is so crazy and out of control right now. It is. Well, I'm a silver stacker, so I'm happy about it. My silver is more than tripled in value, but at $92 an ounce right now, you could see that double overnight as people go for safe havens because an Insurrection Act declaration and a military deployment on U.S. soil will be an attack on the U.S. economy. Do you think stores are staying open? You think you're getting paid during a lockdown? Now, remember how much they hated the COVID lockdowns? But what's their answer to everything right now? Lock the country down under martial law. COVID lockdowns at gunpoint. Exactly what they accused the government of doing when they really didn't do that. Okay. Because the idiots during COVID were special kind of idiots. The reason why we shut down the church meetings wasn't because anybody's anti-Christian. Shut the fuck up, idiot. The reason we shut down the churches, we actually looked at the data. I told you guys this before. I actually worked a war room in my data company, doing global health data and COVID response data. I was the guy getting all the health data sheets from London, New York, Sydney, Melbourne, Vancouver, Montreal, blah, 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 all over the world. And then we put it up. Our site got so good so fast, London Fire Department was using our data. Okay. If you thought the lockdowns were bad economically, it's going to be nothing compared to a declaration of the Insurrection Act. Send the military into the wrong city, major parts of the supply chain just shut down. Go ahead and invade Louisville, Kentucky. I know that's not on their top of their list, but I'm saying just for an example about how the economy works and how it would be affected. Go ahead and invade Louisville, Kentucky. Do you know what is in Louisville, Kentucky? the national hub for FedEx. Disrupt Louisville, Kentucky, all your overnight shipments stop. Some of your not overnight shipments stop. Yeah. Oh, by the way, is anybody going to show up for the World Cup? No, the FIFA or the Olympics when we got troops in the street? You think that's an economic growth indicator? Troops in the street? Cities, yeah, this happens, and cities can't fill those seats and fill those hotels because they've already spent the money. I know how munis work. So when this all, if he decides to go to the mat with this, and people don't show up to the events, what happens? Municipal insolvencies? How can you deploy? How can you enable or declare there's an emergency? Well, they're doing both. They are enabling the emergency. They're instigating the emergency. Then they're going to declare the emergency. Insurrection Act is in there. Martial law quickly follows. Do you think the borders are going to stay open? Not likely. Okay. Supply chains stop. Hard stop. Can't get stuff over the border. Because no matter how much of a fantasy your leader has about the economy, precursor materials, precursor parts are go back and forth over the border sometimes multiple times. Then they finally end up in Texas or Nebraska or California or Tennessee, and they get built into final products. They get IP added to them. Then they're sold on the market. Okay, you're gonna declare Insurrection Act, put the military on the street, and you're gonna have the Mexican border open? No, I don't think so. I mean, you don't have the Mexican border open. There goes a big part of our food. There goes a massive part of your farm tractor, all your husbandry vehicles, and your medium to heavy trucks. A lot of your parts come out of Mexico or Canada. So you won't be able to fix your truck. Well, it doesn't matter. You're not going to work anyways because the job site's going to be shut down. Um, what what will it take to stop this? I think the only thing at this point, because Congress is ineffectual. Just talk about Chuck Schumer, total loser. A lot of people have been talking about, I guess there's one scheduled for like 5 days, a general strike. But it's not a general strike like other countries have general strikes. It's definitely not the wildcat strikes of the 70s here in the United States. Okay. We just don't need a 1 day, let's all stand around and chant and blow whistles general strike. We need to shut the whole goddamn economy down for 2 weeks. But I think most of Americans are way too concerned about their breakfast milkshake at Starbucks or their next episode of Reality Wives in Atlanta than they are. Texas sent alarm trucks from Mexico backed up for miles. Oh, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. We should shut it down. Yes. Does Americans have the wherewithal and the fortitude to actually do it? Because I want a general strike way before what I'm seeing in other places on social media. I'm seeing a lot of people in the veteran community get really pissed and really vocal about fighting back against these guys. Um, that would be so destructive far worse than the Rodney King riots. And I worked those nights. That was bad. I'd much rather threaten the big money. Hey, we can take out your quarterly profits. We can cancel your bonuses, executives. I'd much rather do that. Hey, I cannot order lunch for 2 weeks. I cannot go shopping. I'll just eat out of the cabinets. Okay. I don't have to make any orders online. I'm okay with it. I would definitely support it, but I don't see the majority of Americans supporting it. That's the problem. Supporting it like doing it all the way. Like we're taking over the parks around every city hall and every county supervisor building in America, and we ain't fucking leaving till something gets fixed. You know what the business on the floor of Congress is today? I shit you not. Allowing rich people to put in wasteful water shower heads because the government is violating our rights to shower water. They can shoot you dead in the streets. That's not a problem. But the business of the House this morning is making sure wealthy people have nice showers. We're not going to have health care. More and more Americans are going to be living in these goddamn shanty towns. But you're worried about shower heads this morning. At least Miss Stansberry stood up from New Mexico and ripped them a new one. She got some feist to her. I like her. Swish she was independent. So can we cut this off at the pass before we have a destructive problem? Because this won't be pretty. Okay, Rodney King riots weren't pretty. Thousands of people got hurt. Billions of dollars in damage. Many people died. We're talking something 1,000 times worse. So yeah, am I leading toward a general strike, a more peaceful method of dealing with this? Oh, hell yes. Hell yes. I've seen a lot of violence in my life. I don't like it. Okay. It's a grand waste of time and resources. It's such a waste. It makes land use at golf courses and cemeteries look sane. The old joke from Caddyshack, Rodney Dangerfield. Cemeteries and golf courses, two worst uses of land we ever thought of. Now, how do we encourage people? Because people are pissed. Like I've seen clips where guys were just screaming into the microphone. Really, really, people really don't know that Renee Good was shot by ICE. I thought that was pretty common knowledge. Well, we do have an uninformed portion of the constituency in our country. That's for sure. It's the personality voters. It's the one issue voters. Because that's where Trump got a lot of his support is the one issue voter. I only vote for guns. I only vote for spending on the military. I only vote for something else stupid. So I really hope, and I don't have an answer today, but I'm hoping that very soon somebody will come think of a message to start convincing people that if we continue to go down this road, we're going to lose what America always should have been. Had we ever really got there? No. But we won't have a prayer ever getting there. if we fall down this path of Trumpianism. And I know we're flawed. There are no utopias. I'll say it again. There are no utopias. But I think we can do a hell of a lot better than we're doing now. I think we can do it without the racism, the anger, the xenophobia, um, the anti-Semitism, the homophobia. I mean, their whole political platform is based on hatred. We should be able to get somewhere better, but we're not going to with Chuck fucking Schumer. Jesus. Okay. I gotta get ready for this meeting. So I'll let you go for now. I'll be back online later, probably. Like I said, be independent, vote independent, run for office locally independent. Know your candidates well. Don't do any blind voting. That's not helping anybody. Know your candidate, know one, two, or three good issues, and know a couple of good questions you would ask that candidate about the issue. And the candidates have to start offering us real solutions, not panaceas, not little pats on the head, not little half-ass things they're never even going to bother trying to implement. No, we need a radical change in the way the country works. And if they're all worried about debt at the national level, I got a great way we can cut spending. Cut federal law enforcement, cut the military massively. Okay, because it seems all you have to do is prepare for war against America, where nobody in America is asking for a war. Now I'm talking about going to wars in Iraq or Venezuela. I'm talking about they want the fucking war on Main Street, USA. And if that's, if all the 82nd Airborne NCOs can do is clap like when they're told they're going to go invade Boston, then their budget's too fucking high. If the federal agencies are doing this shit, your budget's too fucking high. You have too much time, money, and resources on your hand because you're trying to find things where there are none. Like, did you hear about the ICE operation, the spy operation? They're literally making up stories trying to pin every single last person they've arrested by ICE and link them to a foreign terrorist organization. That's like trying to tie every black kid that got arrested in the 80s, 90s to a gang just because they're black. That's not law enforcement. That's Jim Crow. Okay. Be independent, vote independent, run for office independent, know your candidates, keep the faith, persevere. Perseverance, don't let go of that. Because one way or another, we have to find a way out of here, or 300 million, 330 million people are going to be poorer than the average Somalian because they will run this country and run this economy into the ground, all to protect a pedophile ring. Okay? We'll get back with you real soon. Take care. Until next time, think about it.